You know, we all grew up watching Melissa Gilbert as Laura Ingalls, that brave, fiery girl who stood up for what was right, ran barefoot through the fields, and believed in second chances. But real life? It doesn't come with a harmonica theme. There are no tidy endings, and sometimes the path forward is messy, painful, and still worth walking. That's the story of Melissa Gilbert. Not just as an actress, but as a woman who's loved deeply. Lost, rebuilt, and kept going, and today, I want to talk about her journey through marriage and motherhood. Not for gossip, not for headlines, but with honesty, with compassion. Because her story, it's one so many of us can relate to. Let's begin at the beginning. First marriage, Bo Brinkman, 1988-1992. In 1988, Melissa married Bo Brinkman, a rodeo cowboy, not an actor, and cousin to actors Randy and Dennis Quaid. It was young love, passionate, a little impulsive, and for a moment, it felt like a fresh start, away from Hollywood, away from the spotlight. Just two people building something real, and from that union came their son, Dakota Paul Brinkman, born in 1984, before they were even married. And when she held him for the first time, she said, "In that moment, I wasn't Laura, I wasn't famous, I was just a mom." And that meant everything. Because after years of being Papa's girl on Little House, this was her chance to build her own family. But marriage, even with love, isn't always enough. The relationship with Bo didn't last. They divorced in 1992, quietly, without drama, and Melissa never spoke ill of him. Because she knew they were young, trying to figure out who they were. And sometimes love changes shape. But Dakota, he stayed, and Melissa made sure he stayed out of the spotlight. No interviews, no tabloid stories. She protected him, and still does. Because to her, being a good mom means letting your child live their own life. And today, Dakota lives a private life, and she respects that, and that says more about her than any headline ever could. Now, let's talk about the next chapter. Second marriage, Bruce Boxleitner, 1995-2011. On January 1st, 1995, Melissa married Bruce Boxleitner, an actor known for Tron, Babylon 5, and a calm, steady presence that felt like home. This time, it wasn't young love, it was mature, thoughtful, built on respect, and when their son was born, Michael Garrett Boxleitner, they gave him a name that carried deep meaning. They named him Michael. After Michael, Landon Dart Yes, the man who played Charles Ingalls, the man who raised Melissa as much as her own parents did. She once said, "Michael Landon was the closest thing I had to a father figure in this business. Naming my son after him was my way of honoring that love." And that hits hard, because think about it. She didn't name him after a celebrity or a powerful producer. She named him after the man who taught her how to stand up, who believed in her, who called her Papa's girl. And now, that legacy lived on, in a boy named Michael, and their marriage lasted over 20 years. Through ups, downs, fame, family. But in 2011, after a long public separation, they divorced, and it was painful, not because of betrayal, but because of change. People grow, lives shift, and sometimes even good marriages come to an end. But through it all, one thing never changed: her role as a mother. She didn't let bitterness take over. She didn't drag her sons into the drama. She focused on healing, on being present, on making sure they knew they were loved, no matter what. And years later she said, "I made mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I never stopped trying to be the mom my boys needed." And that's real. That's human. That's motherhood. Now, let's talk about the third chapter. Third marriage. Timothy Busfield, 2013, present. In April 2013, Melissa married Timothy Busfield, actor, director, and co-star from When Calls the Heart, in a small, intimate ceremony in Santa Barbara, California. No fanfare, no red carpet, just love. And this time, there were no children, but there was peace, companionship, and a shared passion for storytelling. Timothy understood her world. He'd been in Hollywood too. He knew the weight of fame, the loneliness of growing up on screen, and together, they built a quiet life, full of art, family, and purpose. And though they've faced challenges, including Melissa's open heart surgery in 2017, they've stood by each other, strong, steady, together. And in interviews, she said, "I finally found balance. Not perfection, but peace. And isn't that what we all hope for? Not a fairy tale, but someone who walks beside you through joy and pain." Now, let's step back. Because when you look at Melissa's journey through marriage, it's not about the number of times she said, "I do." It's about what each chapter taught her, about love, about herself, about resilience. She didn't get it right every time. But she kept going, and that's courage, because in a world that often judges women for divorce, for starting over, for changing their minds, she chose herself. Again and again, and she never stopped believing in love, even when it hurt, even when it failed, even when the world watched. And that's rare. So the next time you see Melissa Gilbert, whether she's speaking at an event, advocating for heart health, or just smiling in an interview, don't just see Laura Ingalls. See the woman behind her, the one who loved, lost, healed, rebuilt, and became stronger. She wasn't just playing a pioneer, daughter. She was living her own frontier. One of heartbreak.motherhood.growth and grace. And if there's one thing her story teaches us, it's this. Love isn't about staying with the same person forever. It's about showing up, learning, growing, and never giving up on yourself. Because Melissa Gilbert, she didn't just play a strong woman, she lived one, and we're better for having seen it.